I just spent like 3 minutes running around this single room looking for my pop filter because for some reason I took it off sometime, placed it on my desk, but I guess because of the fan that I have here, this little fella, I think I probably just blew it away through the atmosphere, through the stratosphere, and it landed all the way back in the corner right behind my fight stick on the ground, so I didn't see it. Hi, hello and welcome. Welcome back to another short, sweet little video, a little ramble video. It's about an article on Mashable.com written by Chris Wilde in 2015, so it's already 7 years old, but I still find it very interesting. It was actually provided to me by Colin Wright's email service. He has an email service where he shares some interesting links, articles, art projects, things he finds online, and he does it weekly and also daily. I'm subscribed to both of them. This is from the daily subscription service, if you will. If you don't know who Colin Wright is, he is kind of a self-help expert. He's an author as well. He has wrote some books, and I believe I met him through minimalism. And with met him, I mean I just discovered him, because it's of course a one-sided contact. He has no idea who I am, but I still find it an interesting person, and he shares a bunch of beautiful things. If you remember previously, a couple of videos ago, I made a video about how AI, artificial intelligence, and neural networks and machine learning can impact medical decisions. That was also an article I found through his subscription server, so in my email inbox. This article today is about the construction of the Golden Gate Bridge, and it struck a nerve with me because there's very little text in the article actually, but in that compact alinea, in that compact paragraph of information, there's a lot of things packed for me to remember, which I might be able to use when it comes up in a quiz later or something like that. And I just found it very interesting. And not to mention the imagery that is provided in the article is beautiful. So let's just scroll through that together until we find the text that I want to talk about. First of all, right here in the opening scene, if you will, at the top of the article, you can see two workers standing there. It's kind of more near the end of the production process, I think, already, because a lot of the structures are already in place. If you don't know where the Golden Gate Bridge is, by the way, it is in San Francisco, in California, in America, which is on the northeast, southwest, the west coast of America. I have actually been there once on an exchange project with my high school. I even walked across the Golden Gate Bridge, and it is a very impressive feat of human architecture, and you really feel small and you feel in awe and amazed when you look up at those big red structures that are keeping up that piece of vital infrastructure for the city to be alive and to have communications, to have transportation options. It's just like a really important milestone in human engineering, I think, the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's probably one of I would argue that it's definitely the most well-known bridge, the most famous bridge in the world. And I think just in general, in terms of buildings and architectural works and things like that, I think it's also up there in the top 10s probably. Here you can see on this picture like the vast scale. It's something you really can't imagine. And I feel like on these pictures where the road itself is not constructed yet, it feels even larger. It feels even more huge, right? That is because the shapes right now are still a bit abstract. And when something that you're looking at is abstract as compared to something you know, something you're familiar with, those abstract things always have their characteristics a bit enlarged, in my opinion. What I mean by that is seeing a random tower that is just not constructed in a way that you are used to, like a church tower or something, for example, but just something random, a very high-reaching building. I feel like that always seems larger than a tower that is constructed in regular ways. And that is because, at least that's what I think happens, is your brain is like, oh yeah, this is familiar, I know this, and that familiarity makes the immenseness of it, the largeness of it, a bit downplayed. Because your brain is like, yeah, we know this, we're familiar by this, you don't have to be completely amazed by this. But if it's something like the picture over here, where it's not resemblant of an image of a bridge like we're used to, because we are of course used to a bridge having a road that bears cars and trucks across, I think that makes your imagery systems in your brain just go back to basics and interpret things more in terms of scale, basic colors, width, just like the basic things, because there's not that much integration happening based on what your prior knowledge already tells you about structures. And I think that's why these unfinished construction pictures struck such a nerve with me. They really, really spoke to me, and I found it so interesting that I definitely wanted to share it with you guys. Here you can see this is just one of the towers of the bridge that they are working on, and look at how small the humans are in comparison to well, to the tower, but to just a small segment of the tower, right? Because this picture is even zoomed in. And that's another thing. right here you don't see the complete image. So again, your brain is lagging behind in terms of integration and in terms of integrating prior knowledge into what you are seeing and what your brain is processing. So again, the visual image is more striking. It's more like, damn, that's a big ass tower, that's a big ass bridge. And then here is the only, look at this is the only text in the entire article. The author definitely knew what he was doing. He knew what the people would be interested in. And that's not pages and pages of history and insignificant little details about the construction process. No, the people want to see how it went down. And if they want to read anything, just try to include the most interesting parts, the most intriguing parts, the parts that you will definitely remember after reading them once. And that's exactly what this little paragraph is about. The bridge was such an ambitious project that they had to do a lot of lobbying to actually be allowed to construct it. And the main architect behind the bridge is Joseph Strauss. One of his main arguments in support of why they should still build a bridge, even if the conditions were so perilous, is that in the end it would become quite a cheap project, because the tolls they could charge for people to drive across from one side to the other would immediately make profit for them. And then in 1922 the projects and its blueprints were accepted. The city was like, all right, yeah, we can construct this bridge. But then the boat operators between the area where the bridge now spans were like, hold on a minute, this will take our jobs away. If there is no bridge between two islands or between two masses of lands, they're probably not islands. Maybe one of them is. I'm not that familiar with the infrastructure over there in San Francisco, but if there is no bridge connecting the two of them, then the only way of getting across is of course by flying or by taking the boat. And if you then do build a bridge, well, what is the use of the boats then? And after 6 years of battling, it was finally decided that the bridge definitely had to be there. And that is of course also because the city was becoming larger and larger, just like each metropolis in the Western civilization is still becoming larger and larger. Houses and buildings keep getting built. And when the city becomes larger, there are more people to transport across those two places. And the ferry traffic, the amount of boats in the water there was just becoming too much for them to handle. Even though that legal battle was won, construction still only started 5 years later in 1933. That is presumably because of all the preparations and calculations and things that still have to be done in advance. And now, and this was one of the striking parts for me about the article, and it's also the title, and it's also probably why Colin Wright found it interesting, when they talk about the safety measures that were taken during construction. The architect, Mr. Joseph Strauss, was very conscious about this fact. So not only did he include like the classic measures like safety goggles, a helmet and things like that, the safety goggles were also included with anti-glare technology so that the sunlight beams would not disturb their vision. The workers even got hand and face cream to protect them against the wind. And maybe that's just common practice. I'm not that familiar with how building big projects works and stuff, but I found that really interesting. And then the most interesting part of all, of course, and that's indeed what the article is based on, they actually got served a diet of food that prevented them from getting dizzy. It doesn't include in the article exactly what type of food this then was, which is one of the downfalls of this article, I believe, because that is one of the interesting details that I think the author should have included. But still, it's so cool that an architect is so concerned with the well-being of his workers and stuff that he even thinks about things like that. When you're working at such a high altitude, dizziness can of course like mean the end of you. So it's very important for everybody involved to take care that they are feeling well, that they are feeling 100% correctly at the job, that they are just having a great time while building it and not falling off because they are spinning. And then of course, another safety precaution taken was the immensely large net that they strung between the construction process, or that they strung underneath the construction process rather. And here they talk about the Halfway to Hell Club, that is so cool. That is so goddamn cool. And that's definitely something that I will remember forever. 19 men are part of the Halfway to Hell Club, and it's called the Halfway to Hell Club because it's about people that fell down while constructing the bridge, which you would presume means imminent death, of course, because the height, the altitude, just your drop on the water from that height will probably feel like you are dropped on a concrete floor if you land incorrectly. But they were saved by the net. So halfway to hell. They were on their way to hell by falling down, but they were saved by the net. And that's why they got the Halfway to Hell Club mark. And sadly, 11 people did actually die while constructing the bridge. And at first, when I read that 11 people, I was like, oh, alright, that's quite a hefty number. But then when you realize probably how much people were actually involved in the construction and how large and immense the scale of that project just is, it feels like that number could have been a lot larger if those safety precautions were not all taken. Which does not discount, of course, the level of tragedy that 11 lost lives bring with them. The bridge was constructed faster than expected. It was also cheaper than expected, and it was finished in 1937. The article also includes some information about the coloring of the bridge, where a lot of different parties involved wanted different colors to make sure that the bridge was still well seen. So for example, they wanted black and yellow stripes or something like that, just to make sure that pilots and boat drivers as well were also able to see the bridge at all times. But in the end, one of the people involved wrote a 29-page article, so 29 pages of text on why the bridge should be painted red, which I think is amazing. I think it's mind-boggling. 29 pages of arguments why your bridge should be a certain color. And as I told you, it's just one paragraph of information, but you realize how much information I was just able to bring across, right? So when you leave out the remark I made about the author not including the diet and what food it was about, how I found that like the only bad thing about the paragraph, I think you will agree that it was a very well-written piece of text. Let's look at a bunch of the other pictures, and then also let's look at a quote by the original architect to finish things off, because that also really resonated with me. Here we can see a worker running up one of the catwalks during bridge construction. Again, you can see that depth, that three-dimensional perspective is really pulling you in. And I think people with heights might already be scared from just seeing this one photo, even though they have the advantage that below is water, and that makes it a bit harder, in my opinion, to see how high up we actually are. And here you can see the South Tower, and this is a perfect counterbalance to what I said earlier about the photo being zoomed in and you therefore seeing more of the large scale. This photo is zoomed out, and if you look at it, it seems a lot smaller, right? It seems like just a regular old tower. So perspective taking in filmography and photography is definitely one of the most interesting parts about the profession, I think. Two very cool photos here that also use that perspective, right? The cables like running away from you, or well, the bridges for the workers in this case, but I think that's where the cables are probably supposed to be. Yeah, that's definitely where the cables are supposed to be, because in the bottom photo you can see that the cables are already there. And that bottom photo, oh man, that's so epic. Look at the mist and the clouds just obscuring the view. And there's a crane just suspended in the middle of it. I can't imagine the thought that has gone into the process of building this bridge, and just the engineering feats that they had to pull off to make it possible. And when you look at something like this, a picture like this, you must realize that these guys must have had some balls of solid, complete, firm steel, because man, I wouldn't like to work on that height or in that context. But they did get presented with a meal that did not make them dizzy though, so everything is fine. They don't need to complain about it. But just like, how is it possible to look at something like this? What the hell is going on? Is that guy also just fishing right here in the foreground? Yeah, there's fishermen. Oh man, that's such an amazing picture. Man, that really might be my favorite picture from the entire article. That is really like jaw-dropping. Just those guys enjoying their life, trying to catch some rainbow trout to fry up in the Barbie later that evening, with a nice cold IPA on the side, if that was even invented back then, but it probably was. And just imagining the fact that I walked there across that bridge and now seeing it being all deconstructed and in its separate elements feels surreal, man. Like, really cool, really awesome. And here you can see the opening of the bridge, which was then in 1937, if I'm not mistaken, which is only 4 years after construction started, so that's impressive. And then here we have it, the quote that I wanted to use to end this video off. A quote by the original architect on the bridge's opening day in 1937. This bridge needs neither praise, eulogy, nor encomium, whatever the hell that means. It speaks for itself. We who have labored long are grateful. What nature rent asunder long ago, man has joined today. You can feel the heaviness, the weight of those words, of somebody that has probably put in his life work into this piece of art. And I just think that the part like it speaks for itself, that's really what resonates with me, because standing there in front of the bridge, or standing to the side and looking at the way it connects the two pieces of land, or just seeing it on photos, finished or unfinished, it does speak for itself, right? You can't help but be amazed, or that's at least if you enjoy beautiful things in life and amazing things that we humans can achieve, or things that nature can achieve without the help of humans. Just everything that is aesthetically pleasing, and finding enjoyment in things that conceive awe in you, things that conceive like amazement, things that conceive just a smile on your face from ear to ear. And I can't help but smile at things like this, you know. I would say it is enjoying the little things in life, but I don't think I would classify the Golden Gate Bridge as something little in life. Enjoying the humongous large things in life, like my penis. And with that bombshell, we're ending off. I hope you enjoyed this new series on bridge construction. This is episode 1 of 347. This channel is going to become dedicated to bridge building from now on. My next Let's Play is going to be Poly Bridge. We're going to have an interview with the original architect of the London Tower Bridge next week. But the actual truth is that I will see you in the next video with something completely different probably. Very interesting, cool pictures, cool article. It's linked in the description if you want to look at the pictures again. Thanks a lot Colin Wright for linking me to it. And thanks a lot Chris Wilde for writing it as well. See you in the next one. Bye bye.